Did I actually recover that amount? Well, I did not, continue to trade in the same thing because it's a gambler's mentality to think that, hey, I lose money in this. Maybe I should double down in the same method and try to redeem myself.
Welcome to a series of interviews with Singapore's finance pros. Today we chat with finance YouTuber Gerald Ong.
Hi everyone, my name is Gerald and I am a full-time YouTube creator, and I talk about personal finance, cryptocurrencies and investing and basic personal financial tips. So a little bit about myself. Before I started the personal finance channel, I used to be a national shuttler, and I also ran one of the largest badminton YouTube channels in the world. Why personal finance and YouTube? So here's how it all began. When I was younger, I was 16 years old, I joined the Singapore national team. So I signed, as a professional athlete contract. It was when reality hit my face because it is my first time, experiencing like employment as a full-time. And my parents were thinking like, hey Gerald, you're all grown up now, let's take, you should take on some of your bills. And then I started to pay, and then I started to save, and I started to realize, wait a minute, if I could only save like 200 every single month, if I want to be a millionaire if I retire, I'm gonna have to save 50,000 a month if I save $200 a month. So yeah, I'm never gonna become a millionaire. So then that hit me like a brick, like something I was doing with my money was very wrong. If I do not know how to make my money work for me, essentially I have to work till I die. And that's not my vision.
What are your financial goals today?
My goal is no longer, to save crazy amount of money and then hope that it will sustain me till the day I die. But instead, have enough resources or money work for me such that I can sustain myself perpetually. So then that was when I started to strive for basically financial freedom. Except now that I realize the numbers are a lot more challenging than I used to think. In the past, I could survive with like $1,000 a month because I paid $500 in rent and food was like $300 and $100 for travel. But as I grew older, I started to realize that there were a lot more realities that I had to face. Like for example, my parents may not have the financial acumen that I had. They may need help when they are older. Healthcare is also very important to set aside because healthcare is really expensive in Singapore. So then I started to explore other things that could help aid my financial freedom journey, such as insurance, such as other forms of investments too.
What's your best investment to date?
So let's talk about my best investment that I've done, and that happened in the early 2021 period. Friends introduced me to cryptocurrency, and then I started to look at the numbers and I realized it was an asymmetric opportunity. Basically, people in the cryptocurrency space were reeling from the 2017-2018 cryptocurrency crash. So they started to make a little bit of money, and the cryptocurrency miners in Singapore, they were selling their parts for dirt cheap prices. So then I look at the profitability. I think I could get like 20% return in terms of mining profitability. I tried using my home PC and I made like $400 a month, and I was mind blown at the kind of returns I could get mining cryptocurrencies in Singapore. So then I decided to, really go quote unquote all in, right? To go heavy into investing in cryptocurrency because it was a wonderful opportunity. So then I spent $10,000 to buy my initial parts with the help of my wife. And that $10,000, now it's worth approximately $40,000 to $50,000. Not to mention that in the year 2021, I mined almost $30,000 in net profit in cryptocurrencies, which was then used to pay for my house that I currently live in.
What about your worst investment so far?
So when I first entered university, I actually saw what I thought was an asymmetric opportunity, and that cost me a lot of money. So what happened was that back in the day, oil actually crashed. So a barrel of oil cost $50 to produce, but back in 2016, it was selling for slightly over like $30 a barrel. But the mistake I did was that I did not understand derivatives very well. Yeah, I used this option contract to basically buy contracts of oil barrels, USO in particular, and sure enough, the oil price spiked, and I made a lot of money. I think, and when I was in my first year of university, I had $30,000, which became like almost $80,000, and very quickly that amount actually went straight back down, because while the price went up, it actually went back down. And if you are dealing with options, right, derivatives, even though prices went up and then down, you could potentially not make any money, because when you deal with derivatives, time is not your friend. Unlike actually buying, shares of a wonderful company. And because I was leveraged in with contracts, like every minute I was losing $1,000, $1,000, $1,000, $1,000. Should I cut loss? Eventually I cut my loss and I lost a lot of money. Yeah, I was so happy. I thought I was like, I could pay off my university debt in my first year of school, but I couldn't have been more wrong. So that was probably, in my opinion, the worst investment of my life.
Did you buy insurance or invest first?
So for me, I actually started investing first, and then I realized there were a lot of risks that I could not basically afford, and investing doesn't solve these risks. So then I started to look at insurance. So one of the first few insurance that I got was the upgrade for my MediShield plan. So I think the government gives a default MediShield for Singaporeans, but I felt that was insufficient. So then I got a MediShield Plus, if I'm not wrong, and I also got personal accidents coverage, and I add on the rider because I actually had a shoulder injury and I had to basically do an operation for it. But it was not the operation that was expensive. It was actually the physiotherapy for an entire year that broke the bank. And yes, the government insurance do not cover physiotherapy. Even your school insurance doesn't cover physiotherapy. So that's why I've learned, okay, from now on, I need to make sure that I get proper coverage for not just the surgery if I ever need one, but also the rehabilitation process up to a year. So even till today, there's so many things that I want to learn, I want to explore and understand better so that I can, reach my goal of financial freedom a lot quicker.
What's some advice you would like to give a younger version of yourself?
So if I could go back in time to meet a much younger version of myself, say a 12-year-old version of myself, what advice would I give to him? I would give him two advice. The first is to, start as early as you can, because if you never try, you never know, and every single stepping stone would lead you to the path of success. So start stepping earlier, basically. The second tip I would give to my younger self, probably, would be to meet more people, like not just random people per se, but successful people in their field. Because you go to LinkedIn, you'll see friends of maybe not yourself but your parents of very successful people, and you can actually just email them and tell them, hey, I've read about your work, it's really amazing, can you share with me more about your work, and in return, can I buy you coffee, I'll buy you desserts even. And for price of coffee, you get to learn from the experts, years and years of experience. And worst case scenario, they say no, then there are many experts around, and most of the time people are very willing to share. But the problem is nobody actually asks. So I felt that would have been a much better investment compared to spending $2,000 to $5,000 learning at weekend boot camps from your local gurus that teach you how to build wealth. And over time, once you have learned from sufficient amount of people, when you meet with a problem, you can basically react and think of a solution as though you're standing on their shoulders, right? So imagine all the giants. They are like giants in their field, experts. So you are like a small guy standing on their shoulders to solve the problem. So that's how you build experience. It compounds over time, and it's a fantastic way to learn for cheap.